to Coventry in July 2017 after being released by Fulham. What was the selling point behind Coventry?
Yeah, it was. I think I wasn't. It was a weird one because I wasn't really keen. You want to play at the highest level you can, and so at first glance, you're obviously not keen to drop down to League Two. But I think it's there for all to see what size a club Coventry is, and I'd watched them the previous year actually when I was at Shrewsbury. They were in the Checkatrade final against someone's beloved Oxford again.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That was a game I was there
and
for.
that must have been quite painful as well. But
Yeah, it was.
and
It was
I
gutting.
watched the game.
Yeah,
Yeah, that kind of been a
I
good
was
one to
there,
watch.
and I just remember it like a photographic memory. The clock was running out. The ball had gone out of play, and no joke, the ball just lands on my lap, and the clock was ticking down with like 30 seconds to go. Boy, did I throw that ball back to Rob Hall on the pitch as quick as I
Just
could.
get it back in as quick as you could. Yeah.
Yeah, but it weren't meant to be that day. No.
No, I remember because I remember watching the game, and they'd sold sort of 40,000 tickets to that game,
Yeah.
and I think for me that showed you the size of the club, and no matter what level it was at, it was destined. Off the field stuff was completely separate. That happens in football, but on the field, it was kind of destined to go on and do good things. And it was a summer out of contract, speaking with a few different teams, and I don't know if people mentioned, but being out of contract in the summer and speaking to clubs is honestly one of the worst things that you can do, because you're not sure where you're going to be playing. You're meeting with clubs and you're seeing what fits, and you're thinking about moving to that place, etc., etc. It's like, I think it's the less glamorous side of being a footballer, because it's having to get something that works for your family and your fiance, or you as a person. But I went and I spoke with Mark Robbins, and he sort of outlined. It was funny. He outlined his vision for the club. Obviously promotion that season was a necessity, no matter how they did it. And then he just talked about stabilising and then wanting to go again, and that's exactly what he did. So I think for me, it was a club that I just kind of felt at home at straight away. And it was weird actually, because a club of that size, you have to get used to the pressure of winning every game. I mean, I remember earlier in the season we lost to Yeovil Town, and the fans were trying to get in the away changing room. They were like, the windows were open. They were like shouting stuff, and I remember our captain at the time, Michael Doyle, who's played 600 games or something it is for Coventry. He played for them when they were in the Championship and things, and he's been there at the highest highs. And he said, this is the standard. This is the club you're at. This is the standards that we need to set. And so it was quite an adjustment, I think, going from Shrewsbury to that sort of pressure, and that sort of, you need to win every game, and you need to be up there, etc., etc. And it was a great season. It was a season of highs and lows. I think we'd play well against the best teams and beat the best teams, and then we'd struggle to beat, no disrespect at all, but to the lower teams like your Morecambes and your Barnets and your Forest Green was a team down there at the time. And I think I'm not even sure if we beat any of them that season. And that shows you, whether it was we just completely underestimated them or not. It was, we turned up against the good sides and not against the lower sides. But I think the way the season finishes, you're caught up into the fairy tale of, it was an amazing season. But looking back on the games, when you dissect it, it wasn't always like that. But I think that makes the way it ended, all the more sweeter, given that it's a 50-game season, including cup games, leading up to that point. And yeah, what an ending it was.
Yeah, well, speaking of big games, in January 2018, you played Stoke in the FA Cup, a team that were Premier League at the time. And, as we'll talk about more later on, you absolutely love a goal in a big game, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It was one of those moments, one of those games. I think I had my family down because it was around about my birthday. So it's like little things like that they get to experience that game with you, and then you manage to score. And yeah, I'd always remembered I'd played. I remember going into the game thinking this could happen, because a team in the lower leagues that's in good form and winning games of football against a struggling team from any league, that sort of levels out the balance and quality, I find. Like, because all of a sudden the League Two players are hitting passes they don't normally hit because they're confident and they're used to winning games, and then the Premier League players are struggling with the pressure. And I'd always thought, like, you've played a few big teams, but you've never won. And I thought you have to beat a Premier League team in your career. And it was such a good day. It was, and we deserved to win. That was the main thing. I think it wasn't really a thing about a snatch and grab. Like, it was 2-1, and we'd had chances to win it. And after we went 2-1 up, it wasn't sort of a backs against the wall job. I mean, we did have to defend, but we felt quite comfortable, quite solid, but to get the winner in that game in open play as well, I just think it's not like a set piece or anything. It's it all adds to it, and yeah, just it adds to a special. And then I think we went to MK Dons, who were in the league above at the time, and it shows you the size of the club of Coventry is that they got trending on Twitter 10k to MK, and I think they managed to get about 8,500 fans to Milton Keynes, which again shows you their power, that when they want to get behind the team. And we won again, and then went on to the 5th round, and unfortunately lost at Brighton, which these are all the memories that you hold on to when you finish your career. And I've been very fortunate to have quite a few highs already, so long may that continue.
Yeah, and that campaign, of course, winning promotion via the playoffs. Taking it back to the beginning of that season, was that always the aim? Was that always the expectation?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it wasn't even one of those seasons that we weren't talking about. Like, we were talking about promotion from the first day, and it was sort of put on to us from the manager early on. Promotion was the aim. Like, that was the be all and end all. And I think for a club of that size, you've seen it with Portsmouth and things like that. Teams can go down the lower leagues and they struggle to get back up. And I think it was an important season. And I think when you go through that as sort of that bond as a player, you achieve something like that together, because it is a lot of pressure. Fans are expecting, they're seeing their beloved Coventry, a Premier League Championship team in League Two. There is that pressure on you to get them back up. And I think, again, I remember that season actually winning games last season with Wycombe was, you'd be buzzing after the games. Well done, boys, you won. And I remember the season at Coventry when we got promoted, it was just relief. Like, everyone in the change room was like, right, okay, that's that one done, on to the next one. And you weren't truly buzzing until we managed to get promotion, because you knew you'd done it, and that was it. And yeah, like, I think winning the league is obviously special, but to do it through the playoffs is, I'm talking from experience, but it's just something else, especially with fans there. It's just, it was an amazing, it topped off an amazing season, that's for sure.
Yeah, you were named in Team of the Year that promotion winning season as well, Jack. I mean, not a bad personal accolade either, is it?
No, I know it was. I was actually really sort of happy to get that, to get named in Team of the Year, because we'd had a good few players like Jack Stacey who was at Luton Town at the time. I kind of had it in my head, it was between me and him. So to manage to pip him to that accolade was something that I was very proud of at the time. And it's because it's recognition from your fellow players that you're playing against every week, which for me is the best. I mean, you can have a manager praise you to the hills, but if your own teammates don't think that you're doing the job, then that, for me, that says more. And so to get that kind of accolade from your own teammates is something that, and players across the league, is something that I'm still very proud of, for sure.
Yeah, tell us about the playoffs then, Jack. I mean, earning your place at Wembley against Exeter, how did you prepare for the big day?
Yeah, it was, I still remember actually the semi-final. We went to Notts County, and it was 1-1 from the first leg, and we went to Notts County, and the Cov fans filled out the entire stand, and there was flares, and I remember walking out thinking, like, are we still in England? Like, it had that feel to of a foreign game, with the flares and the flags, and it was just, and so that built us on to, and then we kind of rode the wave from there. Just that feel good factor, and I remember going into the game, I was so confident of winning the game, and I know it's easy to say now that we actually did win the game, but I think I knew we'd win, and I was just so confident we'd win, and I just thought to myself, that belief was there, and it's probably, I think, weirdly, I think it's the most confident I've been of winning a game of football, because I just believed that it was going to happen. I definitely wasn't as confident when we were playing when we were playing for Wycombe against Oxford. That was different, but I think for Coventry, I think even we got to half time and it was 0-0, and a lot of the talk had been on how they had got into the playoff final the season before and lost to Blackpool, and if we scored, they would think, oh no, not again, going through all the playoffs and then losing the game. And I think when Jordan Willis, who's our centre half, he took a touch and whipped one into the far corner, I thought, yeah, this could be our day. Like, our centre half just whipped one in, and then obviously when your right back whips one into the left corner with his left foot, you're thinking, yeah, this is our day. And I think the most surreal thing for me was when we were 3-0 up. I kind of, it's not often you enjoy Wembley and enjoy the experience. And at 3-0, I kind of thought there was about 10, 15 minutes left, and I thought the game's done. We were playing well, and I thought, soak this in, because not only are you at Wembley, but you're winning, and you're winning in a position that you can actually take it in. And like the Wycombe Oxford game, right until the last minute, I was nervous, and I was genuinely praying in my own head, just saying, please, 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 please. And it wasn't a nice feeling. Whereas the Coventry one, you actually get to take in your surroundings and soak it in, and yeah, it was just. And I think it was interesting seeing the difference between having fans and not having fans, because that day with the fans, it was just an unbelievable. It was actually on Sky Sports the other day, the game, and watching it back still gives you goosebumps. It's just, what a feeling. What a feeling.
Yeah, and of course, as you said there, another big game, another big goal. You'd scored in that final. In that split second when you scored and you did give your team a bit of breathing space in that game, what was going through your mind?
I think the best thing is that, I was most happy that we scored the third goal, because we were in the flow by that point, and we were very much a team. I felt that during the season we had to be in the flow to do well, and I think that's why we lost to sort of the more rugged teams, because we couldn't really get into our flow and free flow and stuff, and we were in the flow. And I remember thinking, the third goal, nice, that's surely that's the game done. I think if I'd scored the first, I think your mind's very much still on the game, whereas the third, at the time of the game, at the time it was at, I thought, yeah, this is it. And I think our gaffer said it afterwards. When your right back is stanching one with his left foot, it's going to be your day. And yeah, just a chance to sort of look around, and I think it was just a daze. I mean, I remember afterwards, on the bus back to Coventry, I just remember thinking, you've just scored at Wembley. It's like, even being Scottish, I know a lot of the English boys, Wembley's such a huge thing, but even for a Scot to score at Wembley is something that I'll be so forever grateful that I've done. And yeah, it just, like I said before, I've had a good few highs in my career, and that is, up there with, individually, that's, up there with the highest, definitely.
Yeah, then going into that new campaign, of course, the new league, that season you were limited to 13 appearances, I believe, that following season.
Yeah.
Talk us through what happened.
Yeah, I think it was such a weird one for me. The manager had spoken to me in the summer and said that they were taking in competition for places and things, and I'd played sort of 53 games, I think, the season before, and that, for me, that's when you get me at my best, is when I'm just churning out every single game. And he kind of had mentioned about bringing in some competition, and they brought in Dujon Sterling from Chelsea. It was a connection through our assistant manager, and I did kind of think at the time, well, there's competition and then there's a replacement, a Chelsea player coming in who, by all accounts, has to play and things like that to get games, and it was it just almost blindsided me completely, because, like you say there, I was in Team of the Year, doing really well, scored in Wembley, and I thought, okay, this is now my chance to really kick on, and hopefully my career is on an upward trajectory, and it was the blindside that caught me off. The fact that it caught me off guard was the hardest thing to take. I think I didn't see it coming, and like you said, was limited to 13 games, and you'd go in and play, then you'd be back out, then you'd go play, then you'd get injured, and then it was just such a topsy-turvy season. And I think after the way that the season before had went, I was gutted at the way it ended, because I see my future at Coventry. I thought, yes, this is great, I can settle, kick on, and that's football. I mean, and I do laugh because Mark Robbins, I've got a good relationship with him still, even though he hardly played me that season, and I think it's justified. I mean, they went on the season after to get promotion alongside us, and they won the league. And I think for any player, you can't really argue with that. I mean, the manager's decision is justified because they go on to success. And so as hard as it is to take personally, I think you just have to get on with it and, try be the bigger person, which isn't easy, because it did annoy me, and because everyone wants to play, it did annoy me, but that's football at the end of the day, I think.